got a great show coming up for you. It's a conversation about blind hockey, a sport that's new to the United States, but it's been going on in Canada for quite a long time. And the team from Canada, the team from Talk Description to Me, Christine Malec and JJ Hunt, are here to talk and describe hockey. Blind hockey. Check out their podcast, Talk Description to Me. They just released an episode about hockey, describing the rink, describing the play, describing the uniforms, just about everything, because they talk description to me and to you. And if you want to find out more about blind hockey, interested in playing, or know someone who may be interested in playing, check out UnitedStatesBlindHockey.com, or you can check out MinnesotaWildBlindHockey.com. That's MNWildBlindHockey.com. So without a delay of game, let's drop this puck. Here's Christine Malec and JJ Hunt from Talk Description to Me. We hope you enjoy. Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson, and in the studio, returning to the studio, is Christine Malec and JJ Hunt. Welcome to Blind Ability Studio.
Hello.
Thanks so much. Nice to be here.
That's the first time I called it Blind Ability Studio, but just like that. But we're moving up. We're moving up. But you guys got my attention when you were talking about the juniors. The World Junior Cup was going on, the championships up there in Canada. I think Alberta.
Yeah, it was going to be in Alberta. I'll just say off the top, I'm not actually a hockey fan, but I kind of feel like if you're Canadian and maybe certain US states, you have to care. You can't help but care. And so I grew up with somebody in my household or my circle being excited about the World Juniors between Christmas and after Christmas. And it was a source of some excitement, and a kid in my high school played, and you had to feel a little excited about it. And so it kind of started, I was over at a friend's place and he had an authentic jersey with the appropriate stitching to show you that it was a real, World Juniors. And it had a big fat maple leaf on it, and I just got really nostalgic and excited about it. And I started thinking hockey and emblems and uniforms and the visuals of the sport. So I asked JJ, I was like, can we cover this? I think it'd be really fun, and feeling just a smidge patriotic and nostalgic. So we set out to do that, and then the World Juniors was canceled. All those poor people involved, the kids, it's such a time-dependent thing for them. But, hockey's still a huge thing, and it's still going on. So we kind of broadened our sense of what we would cover in the episode. And so we ended up talking about the visuals of pretty much all of the aspects: the rink, the uniforms, the play. That was very interesting to me. The equipment, the body types, my gosh, we did a big wide-ranging. And we did talk about blind hockey too, and that's kind of what got me thinking about you, Jeff, because I see on the Facebook that you often post about being involved with that, and it's something JJ and I are both really curious about. And I could really I really got your excitement over it and your interest in it. So I thought it was a perfect match, because of course you would want to talk hockey with us.
Oh, with Talk Description to Me, that's the name of your podcast. It just makes perfectly good sense, because bringing awareness to blind hockey, it's a tough thing to do, because a lot of people just stop dead in their tracks and go, how do they do that?
Yeah.
So how do they do that?
That's the question.
Could we start there? Because I'd love to hear your perspective. Our podcast has a bit on it that JJ researched, but can you give us a sense of, because I can barely stay on my feet on skates, to be perfectly honest, I'll confess, but can you give us a sense of what the flow of blind hockey? Because I'm really curious about that. Well,
it's kind of ironic that I'm here in Minnesota and you're in Canada, and that's where it all started. But I'll tell you Canadians about it.
Please do. Please inform us in our ignorance.
Early 70s, they started playing blind hockey, and it was only in 2018 when the United States played their first blind hockey game as USA.
Yeah.
And I got interested when I heard they started a Minnesota Wild blind hockey team. And I interviewed the coach, and he encouraged me to go out. And there was an announcement of Minnesota Wild introducing blind hockey to Minnesota area.
Yeah, it is really exciting. Recently, a couple of the coaches and myself went out to Pittsburgh, and we were able to interact with folks and observe a blind hockey summit. And as you referenced, there are several teams.
Well, it took me a little bit, but I did go out. And what I found out is there's levels of vision. They call it B3, B2, B1, B1 being totally blind. Then with, I think it's about 5% sight is a B2. Then under 10% sight is a B3. And you have 3 forwards, 2 defensemen. And your total points can only add up to 13. Yeah. So if you have 3 forwards at level 3, that's 9. And then you have 2 more and 2 more, that's 4. That's 13.
Yeah.
So if you have a B1 defensive player that plays defense, you can have an extra B3 on the team out there. So you can have 4 B3s. So you can juggle a little bit, but you can't put out 13 B1s.
Yeah.
So there's only 5 players and you divide those points up. And it is a visual offensive type of playing, but the defense surprised me because they're riveted to you with their ears and they play position. They know how to box you out. If they sense you're there, they'll come through you. I've had that happen too.
You've got the bruises to prove it.
I got to play with the U.S. hockey team. I wasn't on the team, but they invited me to play, and I got to play with them. And I got invited where they have the conditioning and all that stuff, but it got canceled due to COVID. And then that's where they do the tryouts and everything. It's a camp, and so. But I've gotten to go to 2-3 of their events and play with them, and it's really neat. The level of play, you just, in your own little world, you think you're this, but then you get all those people. It reminds me of Jonathan Livingston Seagull. You keep moving up these levels. And it was really neat to see these players play all out.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this is blind hockey. No, it's hockey.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's what I certainly, when I was doing just the research for the episode, watching clips online, you watch blind hockey being played at the highest levels. You're absolutely right. Just, it's hockey. Like that's what's going on. There's nothing limited about it. It is not, it's a little bit slower than NHL, but frankly, almost everything is slower than NHL hockey. It's very, very fast. The puck being a little bit bigger and heavier, that makes it a little bit slower. But the athletes that are skating out there, they are moving, they are deking around opponents. And the defensemen are, using their skills very intentionally to, like you say, box other players out, to get in the way, sweeping sticks. If you're a defenseman, really, a huge part of your job is just mucking up the play of the forward. That's what you're there for. Get in the way, be a disturbance. And you can absolutely do that with no vision, only the acoustics. But the acoustics are tough in a rink. There's a lot of echo in a rink. That must be a challenge to play with that kind of echo.
Communication is everything. Your goalie can be calling things out, and the defense will be calling things out for the goalie. So it's tit for tat. They just go back and forth all the time. And if I get the puck when it came from the other team, I yell out our color, like if we're blue or if we're gold, I'll yell out blue, blue, blue. So everyone got a clue that, okay, I definitely have the puck and we're moving down the ice. That sends that. We don't have a lot of passes going from the right side to the left side.
Yeah, and it's tighter game because those shorter passes, right? Yeah.
Yeah. If I get the puck and I'm breaking out, I'm going to carry that puck as far as I can. Hopefully I can cross the other blue line, and that's where I'll be met with defense players. But then if I make a pass, there's a secondary whistle. The referees have these 2 pitches. A high pitch means the pass has been made. Now we're allowed to shoot on the goalie. If we don't make a pass, you can never break away and go in and shoot on the goalie. I used to play... You chase down that guy on the breakaway. No.
That's right. Yeah.
I let him go, and I pick up the second guy because that's where the pass is going to go.
That's right. Unless you've got that one pass in the offensive zone, right? Then you have to have that pass. And I guess that makes sense because you've got to move the puck across the ice so that there's that sound. Otherwise, it would be a bit of a game breaker.
It helps
if you could
the goalie,
just get the puck. Yeah, that would be tough. Now, I'm really curious about something, and certainly in Canadian hockey, and I think just in hockey in general, there's a lot of, what's called chirping. There's a lot of chirping at your opponent and, saying little digs and constantly being a little bit nasty. Is that part of blind hockey too, or do you need to save the audio space for the other kind of communication? So there's not enough room to chirp at each other because you don't want to, you don't want to take up too much audio room.
It's hockey. Yeah, I got plowed over from the backside. Usually people don't check you from the backside, but I got plowed over. Next time I came down, I'd let them know I know who did it. You know, you just have that. I mean, that's just a natural thing. But the communication is mostly as you're breaking in. If a guy's coming up behind me on my team, I can just let the puck drop and he'll pick it up. That's a pass beyond the blue line. Yeah. But I don't know he's there. But if he says that secret, it's not really a secret. It's like, Jeff, something that gets your attention. Then you realize they're there and you don't have to look over your shoulder while you're trying to go forward. You know? So by halfway through the game, my voice is shot.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that means I'm doing an okay job. My voice should be shot after the first period.
Oh. One of the things that JJ and I talked about in our episode was the hockey fight. Now, as I don't know, it shouldn't entertain me because I'm a pacifist, but the fighting just does. There's a code, there's some names, there's some thing. So is this a thing in blind hockey? Is there hockey fights?
No, there's no checking.
That's right. No body checking. But there's still a lot of body contact, right?
Yeah, you can fight for the same square foot of ice. Like if the puck is ahead of you and you're both converging on it and you're going for the puck, you can make sure that your body has a better advantage at achieving the puck on your stick, and you will make contact. And there's a lot of that.
Okay.
It's just like we have a semi-pro women's league, and you can't tell the difference. But technically, there's no checking in that.
Right.
Yeah.
However, there's a lot of fighting for real estate.
Yes.
That's what I call it. That's a political way of saying
it. Yeah, exactly.
I remember when I used to be a spectator at community goalball games, because I would never get on a grimy gym floor and let my friends throw heavy things at me, but I would go to, pick up the pieces when my friends were playing. And one of the warm-up exercises they would do, and this just curled my hair, was start at one end of the gym, and totally blind people were doing this, an unaccompanied run to the other side of the gym. And I got it. Like, it's safe. There's a whole wide gym there, but to think about doing it just like, and when we were recording, JJ was talking about the speed, especially the linesmen and the refs at the beginning of the game, like the speeds and the skaters, the speeds they can get up to. And so I wonder about what it takes to, and I guess it depends on your level of sight, but once you get going fast enough, like if you can't see where you're going, I don't even know what my question is, but I guess, was that a challenge for you to let go of that apprehension and just go as fast as you can?
That's an advantage I have. I'm fast, but when I'm playing with the big boys, the U.S. team and stuff, I'm okay. It's strange. The faster you go, the more you keep up with everyone else, in a sense. It's like in traffic. If you're going slow, you're an obstacle. If you're going too fast, they're obstacles. But if you're going with everybody, then you reach this level of the moving picture, you're moving with it. And so that makes it nice. Every once in a while, there will be that moment, like I have no central vision, so I have to pan a lot.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get locked in on something and I could run right into someone. And, there's been occasions where'd that person come from? We wear full equipment. Everything's the same as hockey. I have gear from toe to my helmet all the way up. We wear the mask. We wear everything. The only adaptation that there is, as JJ said, the puck's a little bigger and it is hollow and there's bearings inside and it makes a rattling noise. That is the only thing different other than crossing the blue line and having to make a pass.
Yeah.
Other than that, these people have played hockey. Some people have played college hockey, semi-pro hockey. Some people have played, high school hockey, and they lost eyesight. And, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 30 years have gone by, and they put on the pads again, and the love comes back. We all got a little
Wow.
Canadian in us down here, I think.
I can imagine. Actually, I hadn't thought much about that. That must be a very intense emotional experience for some people to come back to it. Think maybe having thought that they were done, and we sort of referenced it like the smell of the arena or the smell of the hockey bag. You know, oh my God! It's instant nostalgia, even if you didn't care about it or you thought you didn't care about it, and if you did think you cared, it must be enormous.
I put on the pads and I put on the skates and they were sharpened. And I remember taking that first step out and no one knew me yet. And I took that step out and all I could say was, okay, now put the other skate forward.
Yeah.
It
Right.
was one step, one stride, one crossover, one. And I think it was the second time I went out, I plowed a guy that was 6'4" into the boards. And then they explained to me about this checking thing.
Yeah.
But he was going around the net, going to come around and stuff it. So I came from in front of that and I just did and I walked away, I skated away from that moment and I had a big grin on my face. I said,
Yeah.
contact, how many times can someone that's blind visually impaired make physical contact or in a sport like that, do what you desired to do and feel that, it is a contact sport.
Yeah. And the confidence of that's the thing that blew me away when I was watching these clips, is the confidence of the skaters who are, like you say, they're whipping around and there's constant movement from everyone. That's a big thing about hockey that's different from a lot of sports. All the players are moving at all times. A great analogy to traffic, by the way. That's exactly what it's like. And I can imagine the danger in not moving with everyone else moving around you. But watching that confidence and having an understanding. I played hockey as a kid, and every once in a while I'll get called into some kind of scrimmage or go play with my kids, and just getting out there and feeling the movement and feeling my legs come back to me. I remember, I think it was Guy Lafleur who he was playing in the NHL in the era when you didn't wear helmets, and then the rule changed, but Guy refused. He's like, no, I am never wearing a helmet, because he loved the feeling of the wind blowing through his thinning hair, the movement when you're out on the ice. And I can imagine like that first crunch when you get back on the ice. That must have been so invigorating.
It is, and that's what comes back. And so then you have each team with 3 lines, 5 guys apiece. There's 15 guys on each team, so that's 30 guys. Plus you got 2 goalies, maybe a backup, and then the coaches. All that enthusiasm going all at once, and it's like, we each have teams in our own states or our own cities and stuff. It's different because it's more of a educational type of team building type of thing. We have 6-year-olds that are out there. We have, high schoolers and stuff. And the last 3 times we haven't had enough people out there, but the youngins came. But the parents are, getting their kids ready, bringing them down there, going through the hour and a half or 2 hours that we're at the rink. That's 4.5 hours that they're dedicating to make sure their kid gets this opportunity. So I spend time with the kids, okay, stride, step. I didn't get to shoot the puck that day and all that stuff, but it's more of a, if we want to catch up to Canada, we got to develop these players.
Thanks for all the nation building you're doing. We're really enjoying it. I really appreciate it.
Well, I've watched some of the games and they're good. You guys really have a good program.
I found this beautiful, this adorable 5-minute video on YouTube, and it's a series of NHL players, and it was so unique. Someone went to each of these players separately, so it's not like they're having a conversation. And the question that you don't hear asked, but the question was, what are your favorite sounds of hockey? And it was beautiful, partly because you could tell that the players had never been asked that before, because they weren't, it wasn't like, oh, you just blew that goal for your team, how do you feel? It wasn't a dumb sports interview question. It really got at their love of the game. And so you can hear it in their voices, oh, I love the sound of, and then they kind of go through the different sounds of hockey, and they had responses that they, had ready, because they definitely had sounds. For some of them it was the crowd, but for some of them it was the first skate contact on the ice in the morning, or for some of them, this was new to me, it was the tape when you're taping up your stick, or you're taping up your shin pads, whatever. I didn't even know about those things, but for them it was the sound of the tape, and each of them had their own sensory experience. And so these are sighted pro players, but I loved that someone thought to approach them from a different sensory perspective. And what's the sound that you love? And so, Jeff, what's your favorite sounds of hockey?
It's probably the sound that so many people think is so annoying. Right before they drop the face-off, whether it's in the circle, offsides area near the blue line or center rink, they jiggle the puck, and it goes, and I hear sighted people say, "Just get on with it," because it doesn't mean much. To me, it's like the bugle route. Cavalry. It's that moment. As soon as that stops jiggling, game's on.
That's the call to action.
Yeah.
It's there. Yeah.
And it doesn't take 1 second. It's about 3 seconds long of that rattle, but it really makes you settle in, And I was lining up for a face-off, and one of the guys on the U.S. team was right across from me. He goes, "Hey, I like the way you play out there." And I turned to him and I said, "You trying to get in my head?" I mean, he's an opponent right now. You know what I mean? It's like, "I'm trying to get in my head." And he says, "No, you play old school hockey. That's the way we should play." Ooh. And that sunk in. And this guy's a really good fast player. I mean, I know he's on the ice when he's on the ice. And it just...
What did he mean?
Well, old school, you play the body a little bit more. You play position. You go right out in front of the net with the defensemen, and you make them upset. They're going to try and move you out of there. A lot of people hang outside there in the slot. They don't want to be tempted by those 6 foot, 270-pound guys that'll bulldoze you over. But me, I like, not just me, there's other players that do it too. They like to get in there, intimidate them, which then actually distracts them from the action if the puck isn't there. You're tying up a guy that's trying to block the net, be that speed bump, that something, that obstacle. So if I can tie him up and spin away from him and create air, that's the thing in hockey is you want to create some free ice, like open ice. So if you can get him to come off the front of the net, that means your other player might be open. So I don't mind being that sacrificial
mucking in a little bit.
Crash test dummy or whatever. That's one thing that I have going for me, where other players are great at staying 3 feet away from those players, but they're quick. They have that first step, so they can avoid those players because of their quickness. Me, I'm more of a thug type guy. I will go, hockey does have bruisers. I'm not the bruiser guy, but I didn't remember someone telling me to do that. But I do remember when I was about 8 years old, the coach, I had a brother and a cousin that were 2 years older than me, and I played against them all the time. So they were bigger. And the coach told me, when that guy comes around, check him. So, play the body on him. Well, he came around and I checked him, and we were playing outside, and he went over the boards. And the coach said to me, I don't know. He was impressed a little bit, but I don't think he meant like that. So, so that's my style of playing. And there's other players that are fast, lightweight guys that will dodge those altercations. Yeah. They're that good. And it's nice to have a balance of those type of players. You need a balance like that. And that's why you do have your fighters on the teams, the guys that'll, bruise and stuff like that.
We were talking a bit about this in the episode. We were talking about the differences, the visual differences between men's hockey, women's hockey, and blind hockey. And one of the things that I talked about was that in full contact men's hockey, so much emphasis is on the checking that you really end up with like one physical type of player. Everyone's huge, have to be, because delivering those checks is such a massive part of the game. But when you remove when you're mucking in, because again, it's still a very physical game, whether body checking is allowed or not. But when you remove body checking as such a primary element of the game, you have a little bit more room for those other players, right? For those really fast, nimble players who can deke around, because they're still going to get like roughed up and tangled up, but they don't have to be so concerned with either receiving or constantly delivering big hits. And so women's hockey tends to have a greater variety of player sizes and of body types. It's interesting how much that one rule change affects the style of play, really,
That and the vision. We have some players that, they're B2. They may have RP and they just have this little tiny window. If they get this puck on their stick, they can go around anybody.
Yeah.
They have perfect stick handling. They can go around anybody. They'll get down there and they'll try and pass it to you. Now, can they catch a pass? Probably not as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But the stick handling that's absolutely key. They can do that without any difficulty, because they've got that focus. Is that it? They've got that clean focus in the middle.
That clean focus, and they usually, it just brings me back to these moments. They'll get the puck and they'll deke me. Okay. They'll deke me. Well, I'm going at them, forcing the play. And once they get around me, they turn on the jets and they're able to weave through 3-4 guys and they're already down the ice, but they can't do anything because they have to make that pass.
That's right. Yes.
But that's how good they are. Some of these players are that good. Now, if they have RP and it's that fine type of sight, they're good when they have the puck or when they're right in on the action. And now, if they have, like I have, where don't have the central vision, they're good open play, open ice, because they can pick up peripheral.
Yeah. So interesting.
And that, rather than body size, it's almost vision, your acuity, that's
diversity,
and the kind of vision you've got, whether you're seeing peripherally, that's really fascinating.
Wow.
But you don't know that as you're playing, but you catch on to their style. And once every time that guy gets a puck, I might as well turn around and skate full speed back. But that gets tiring too. The thing is about hockey, and this is whether you're in the NHL, not that I've been there, but NHL, any level of play, you're out there for a minute and a half.
Yeah.
So you give it your all. So I do this interval running. I run full speed for a minute and a half. And then my timer, I have one of those timers that does step timing. So then there's 2 more lines. So I get 3 minutes where I walk. Then I run a minute and a half. So that's mentally gets you prepped for that burst.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Which is the way hockey shifts work now, they are so fast and only getting faster. Like, I think if you're in the NHL and you're on the ice for 45 seconds straight, it's a big shift now. They are really turning over quickly.
I stretched it when I said a minute and a half, but sometimes you might have that face off or some other type of thing. So I just use a minute and a half. Then it's better to be ready than having to get ready.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's a big thing with the pandemic and hockey or any sport or anything that you're doing today. You have to really become an individual of physical fitness, preparedness, because you don't have that team meeting all the time. You don't have those caliber of games like Christine, you said about the juniors and all those poor kids. Mm-hmm. They were waiting for that moment. They're going to age out. Time waits for no one.
Yeah, it's true. I'm wondering, JJ, we didn't talk about this in the episode, but maybe you can't answer this on the spot, but if you looked at a recording of an NHL game from, I don't know, the 60s or the 70s, and then one from today, would you see a difference in the pacing or the style?
Yeah, I think you would. I mean, even if you take out all of the obvious things that you would see, the black and white and the uniforms and the different footage, the quality of the footage, you take all those things out. I think even just the style of play is different. And certainly the size of players. The players are huge now, and the speed is incredibly fast. And because of the way the shifting works now, that like Jeff was just talking about, those really quick shifts, that makes a big difference. You are expected to go full out for those 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and then you get off and switch out. And that wasn't so much the case back in the day, as they say. You would have been playing longer shifts, so you would have bursts of speed, but then you would slow down a little bit. You wouldn't be going full out all the time. And because the equipment is bigger and the bodies are bigger, There's more body work and less stick work. I mean, there's still stick work. You're still kind of hacking away at each other and pulling away, but the players respond differently because of the amount of padding they have and protection that they have around their bodies. That's a big difference. And the equipment itself, like we talked about, like a slap shot. When you watch a slap shot in slow motion, you can see the bend of the stick as it hits the ice because it's coming in with such force, and the stick can handle it because it's a fiberglass, carbon, whatever weave around the outside. Whereas the old days, you got an old Sherwood wood stick, it would shatter. Like it's not, you can't do that. So all of those things to get, like those things do definitely change how the game looks now compared to how it looked, whatever, in the 40s, 50s, 60s.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you have Gretzky, which was a typical body type of a player. Then you had Mario Lemieux, who was taller and lankier, but that guy could move the puck from left to right 9 feet, from the left side to the right side, which a defenseman defending him, if you can move the puck 4.5 feet to your left, you're probably going to go that way. But he would just pull it right back.
Pull it back, yeah.
And the defenseman would still be standing there going, what just happened?
Yeah.
So they weren't expecting a guy of his size to have that type of motion movement. So it has changed a little bit. Like you were saying, they didn't wear helmets. And, today the typical padding is from the skates. You got really nice skates, and you have shin guards coming up. Then you have a supporter that has protection in it. And then socks come over there and they hook up with Velcro. And then you have breezers that come up. And those are pads, and a tailbone pad, hip pads all the way around you. Then you have shoulder pads that cover the chest, the back, down the back quite a ways. And then the shoulders and then the biceps. Then you have elbow pads that fill up that area. Then you have gloves that come on. Then your jersey goes on. And I like what you're talking about, the stitching in the jersey. I got 2 of the jerseys that I had with the U.S. team in the events. And you get to keep the jerseys. It's kind of
nice.
Neat. And then you have the helmet, which is protected. And then you have the shield in front. Everyone either has to wear a cage or a shield and a mouthpiece. I've gotten hurt more skating with the grandkids at open skate because you're not wearing all your gear. And the kids are all over the place, and they just go, and I can't pick them out all the time. So I have to be very careful when I'm doing that because it's a dangerous sport. It's very dangerous, and you should wear protection. Even if you're at an open skate, I would suggest wearing a helmet, a bike helmet, anything, because that ice is very unforgiving.
Oh, yeah.
Ow.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff, one of the things that JJ and I talked about was that it was actually just something JJ had said randomly earlier, was that when he's watching a game, because he knows the sport, he can kind of look at the big picture and see something developing and kind of see where it's going to go, like watching a chess game or something, as opposed to someone who doesn't know the game, who would just be kind of watching what looked like random action. So when you're on the ice, do you have that sense of a progression or of a being part of the picture, like you see what's developing around you?
You absolutely do. Otherwise, get off the ice, because you have to have that aura. There's something happening at all times, and you have to connect with it. And that's one of the hardest things to teach in hockey is everyone has a position in a sense, but sometimes everything gravitates towards somewhere, and your response to that gravitation is hang back. Who's out in front of the net? If it's the opponents, you better pick those bodies up. I'm not talking checking, but you better be intimidating, lifting their stick, stepping in their way, putting your skate between their skates and stepping forward. I'm not saying tripping or anything, but you just want to make it inconvenient for them. Or if the puck comes around your side in the corner, you want to be there and get that puck. And as you're breaking out, as you're coming out with the puck, you got free ice. Everything's changing. You want to hear someone's voice that's coming with you, so you know what to do as you're approaching 2 big defensemen that want to take you out, in a sense, or become an obstacle. So you're changing the guard. Now you're offensive, and they're going to come after you. So you want to make that pass so you can start your attack. As soon as you make that pass, you bust towards the net, and hopefully you can pick up the rebound or the sound of it. So there's always a flow.
Yeah.
And you have to be connected with that flow of the stream that's happening. Otherwise, you're just taking up space out there. You're an obstacle.
Yeah, it's really interesting because as a sighted person, as someone who interprets the world visually, of course, my instinct is to think that, of course, you need your sight to be able to see how that play is developing and to be part of that. But really, if you think about it, it's not like hockey players on the ice, sighted or not, have access to an overhead camera that is showing them where all of the players are in some kind of diagram. Hockey's moving fast. And if you're on the ice at eye level, you don't see everyone who's in front of you, who's behind you at the sides as you're skating down the ice at 30 miles an hour. You don't have access to that. And yet you have a sense of how the play is developing and where someone's going to be not only now, but in 5 seconds. And I don't know what senses are actually involved in that, what, sometimes commentators call hockey IQ or whatever. Gretzky was known for being a master of this, knowing where everyone was at every time, at every moment. But that's not sight. Like, it's not sight that's doing that. I don't know exactly what it is, but there is an understanding that goes beyond just I can see, therefore I know. That's really interesting. I've never thought about how a person gets that information on the ice.
Well, kind of like cane travel, as fast as you can go from tapping left to right to pencil grip because you're at a convention or something. And then when do you put you didn't see anybody, but all of a sudden the crowd noise, the action that was happening told you to bring your cane in a little bit because you're probably going to trip something, right? It's just going to tie you up. So as fast as you do that, that's how fast you are with adjusting to what's happening in a sense. But the best thing you can do in any sport or your sport, where are you supposed to be?
Yeah.
What is your role right now? And when you're on the other end of the ice or as you go into the other, are you tired? Would it be best to just get off the ice right now, let the other guy out? You really have to be cognizant of where you are with your physical tiredness. Have you been out for 45 or a minute and a half? There are times where you come off early because you had to skate full speed down the ice 3 times real fast. Well, that's your shift. I'm sorry. There's
veer off. Yeah.
There's another guy that's just waiting to jump on right as you get off. But like you said, you just have a sense of what you're supposed to be doing. And if you see something or you feel something, like there's guys out front and the goalie's yelling or something, you're communicating, you have to adjust. You have to migrate. You have to, it's one of those senses that, you don't need that audio camera above you. And it's not just sight, because there's guys out there that have very little sight that are being that obstacle in front of you. So they're doing their job. So you got to figure out how you can best help the team.
Clearly, and watching the game played at a high level, and with the benefit of, a good camera position, frankly, like if you're watching a YouTube clip or something, a filmed game, you do get a better sense of, like, I can see that play developing, and it's obvious that the blind player who's got the puck can also sense that play developing, because when that pass cuts between 2 defensemen and lands on his winger's stick, like, obviously that was set out, that was known, that, like, the movement of the players, where her partner was on the ice, all of that is known. And you get the benefit if you are someone who is watching that game through a camera, you can see it develop. But obviously everyone on the ice made that happen. That was not a fluke that puck made it through and landed on the stick,
Yeah.
I keep coming back to, Jeff, kind of what you were talking about earlier, which is the team aspect. And when I was growing up, I was physically active, but there was no team sports in my life. And I went to a sighted school and lived in my home community. So I didn't, it wasn't like I was out of school for the blind. But I often think about this, that even now, the physical fitness things I do are very individual. And I compete with myself, and that's perfectly fine. But I feel like that's such an important thing that it's easy for blind kids to miss. So it really gave me a little warm, fuzzy feeling when you talked about the little 6-year-olds being there and the parents taking the time, because that team sport thing, I don't have it. it. Like, I just don't have that experience in my background, and I can hear about it and I go, wow, that's really, I sort of get it, but I haven't experienced it. So that's one of the things that keeps coming back in my mind in our conversation, is you talking about that. That's a really great thing.
Well, the other thing is the volunteers that are out there, the coaches and the volunteers that show up to spend time with the first half hour of our practice is dedicated towards those young ones, the beginners, the ones who are out there trying to, get a grip on skating and balance and all sorts of stuff like that. And then everybody gets out on the ice, but we split it up halfway, and we don't get out the loud banging, clanging of the pucks until the last half hour, just because it's like JJ, you said, the noise out there. It's a really arena ice, a lot of reflection echoes and everything. Yeah. In Canada, they were developing this one puck that would adjust to each rink. You could actually program it if it worked good this way, if the sounds worked good this way.
Oh my gosh.
But after it got hit a few times.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they haven't figured it out yet, but doing what we're doing right now and, developing young players, those volunteers are out there and those parents are out there. So that's what I fell in love with. I think more so than me getting out there and playing. And that's what'll keep me going to volunteer when my days are done and, help coaching or help admin or something, because it takes a team, it takes a community to get a team together. We may have Minnesota Wild Blind Hockey as our name, and we get to play at the Minnesota Wild practice arena. But that still costs money. It's not like everything is given to you. You still have to do some fundraising. You still have to try and find these players. And I tell you what, blind and visually impaired players that are now blind and visually impaired, but they played hockey earlier and they love the game, it's hard to find them, because typically if they're B3s or B2s, they're on the fringe. They don't register with the state services for the blind or your voc rehabs. They're the ones that are still working, and the company got them a magnifier or they got a CCTV, and they don't really address the blindness. They don't use a cane. They don't use voiceover because they use magnification. Those people are hard to find in the system. They're hard to recruit because they don't want to be noticed as blind. But when those people find out there's blind hockey, they're usually the ones that are first there, lacing up right away.
Oh, yeah. Well, and those rinks, those communities of people, those volunteers, the coaches, those are homes. Like, those are real second homes. And like we all talked about this at the very beginning, the smell of going to the rink. Like, I still remember getting a crappy chicken noodle soup in a cup out of a vending machine at my outdoor rink.
Oh my gosh, those were bad.
They're terrible, and yet I love them. And like the feeling of like when you arrived, I played just house league hockey at a local park, and when you got there, you knew half of the families that were involved, and kids getting out of cars with their bottom half of their equipment already on, and getting down to the ice, and parents saying, "You're too old for me to be tying your skates," and all of that. Like there's a real family feel to the arena life. And I think that's interesting, Chris, that's not. I guess you had some of that with. You said it was your brother that played. Is that right?
Well, my brothers played, so I would go sometimes, and at the time I was like, it was boring, and now I can nostalgize about it. But my brothers were sighted, and as a blind kid, there just wasn't opportunities around me to be in a team sport thing. So I really feel like I missed out on, I have nostalgic memories of skating for sure, like the arena life. I get that part, but the team building aspect was something that I definitely did not have growing up.
Well, you guys have done it really well up there in Canada. I mean, you get 40 years strong. You're the only team to beat. And we've gone up against but that's a goal. I'm just so glad that there's players right now that are helping carry in this sport through this pandemic, because we started in 2018.
That's so new.
Yeah, it's a tough time to take a hiatus.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of teams that are struggling. We have, 12, 16 teams in cities, but some of them are hurting a little bit because we're not able to get out. We're not able to recruit. And we just had a little break here. On the 16th, we go back. And then in Pittsburgh, there's going to be the Classic up there, and they have sled teams. Those are people who, from wheelchairs, sled teams, the Warriors, the Wounded Warriors, they have a team, the special team, and then the blind. I believe there's a deaf blind division too. And in Minnesota, we just
changed our name from, I want to get this right, we were disabled hockey, but all our teams now, it's diversified hockey. We changed the name.
Cool.
And the main thing is that, by the way, we love the sport and everything like that. We don't want to be labeled as disabled hockey. It's
Yeah. It's just hockey.
I'm glad to see that even in this level, I mean, in the blindness world and stuff like that, I've heard, we always get these words, what not to use, blind's a 4-letter word or something like that. But to see it now at this level where they're moving in this direction too, it's really neat. And I tell you what, I got to experience sled hockey. These people, these people, they're it's awesome. They're so fast and they can turn and do this. They have these spikes on the end of these sticks. On the other side is the blade to hit the puck with. And on the other end, there's a little ice pick type thing, and they just cruise, and they're so fast and stuff. And then after the game, you see the whole family, the wheelchair, the family, and opening the doors for them as they come in through. Their brothers or sisters carrying the equipment, and it's like out there on the rink, they're an individual, totally independent on a team and playing. And that's what it's like for the blind hockey players too. They get to play the sport again. And that love of the smell, the feel of playing, the energy and the synergy from the whole team. It's really neat. I'm glad they've done this. I'm glad Canada brought it to light for us to give it a shot and come down and kick our butts. But that's the goal. That's the goal. We keep on inviting them.
That's right.
More. We want
one of these
more.
days.
Yeah, they came down to Blaine, Minnesota, but 7 of them couldn't make it because of the quarantine and stuff like that. So we put together teams. We blended the teams. But it's still,
fun.
it was, I mean, we're all here. Let's play.
Yeah,
sure.
And it's that spirit of hockey. It's not always about us against you. It's us. Let's play. And even when we don't have enough players, we have connections with high school teams, or some of the volunteer coaches will suit up, and they'll play like the
Nice.
defensive positions and stuff just to be able to get the
play the
game
game.
going. And they're not going to hot dog it or anything like that. They're going to be that obstacle, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. I'd rather play with the blind people than the sighted people because I know what to expect and everything. So it's fun. It's a fun thing. I didn't know I would love it, and I fell in love with it. And here I am waiting to get this pandemic over so we can get going somewhere.
That's right.
You guys, like you said, you got a episode coming out on hockey.
Yeah, it's great. We had so much fun with it. And I was doing the editing yesterday and I couldn't resist. I started slipping in these little background hockey sound effects sounds. And I started to go a bit crazy, and I just kept putting them in everywhere because it started to feel like JJ was actually doing hockey commentary. He was just slowed down a bit, but he felt like a hockey commentator. So I kept slipping in these background hockey noises. And it's mental how much a nostalgia I feel for a game I never played. There's just a culture of it, I think, in Canada. My neighbor has little kids, and I didn't know the parent very well, but just a few years ago, he put in a little backyard rink, and he was out there teaching his 5-year-old how to do a wrist shot, and I was like, so it's just like you grow up with it in the household on Saturday, the hockey night in Canada. Every Saturday night in the household, it was being watched. Even if I didn't care about it now, I can look back with nostalgia on it. And so we had a ton of fun, or I did. I think JJ did too, because JJ, you played. Yeah. So we had a ton of fun.
The excitement around hockey, the way it can completely overtake you. I remember as a kid when I was playing, I had a friend of mine who was on an opposing team, and the two of us went into the corner to scramble for the puck, and he started laughing, and I didn't understand why he was laughing. And after the game, I said, Cam, what was that? What were you laughing about? He's like, dude, I don't think you sing the Eye of the Tiger while you're playing, and I had no idea. But I was so into the game. It's the Eye of the Tiger. I was like so into it that I would sing. And that's how I felt like, talking about this with Chris, Jeff, and now talking about it with you. There's like getting into the game, getting into the sport, thinking about it, talking about it. And that's why, we're letting our inner commentators out right now. We're talking about what it's like in this kind of hit, and why you got to get the stick out there, getting in front of the net, all of that stuff. stuff. It just bubbles up in us. And so it's been a real pleasure this week because it's, between research, recording our episode, and now talking with you, this is like, it's a whole week of thinking about, dreaming about, imagining being back on the ice and, and being in hockey. God love it.
I think I'm going to retape my stick right in a few minutes.
Right
after I get out.
That's right.
Just retape my stick. And it is a passion. Now, Talk Description to Me, that's the podcast, right?
Yeah.
It is indeed. Talk Description to Me. We release on Saturday mornings.
And you can listen wherever they listen to the podcast, they can find it.
You got it.
Our website is talkdescriptiontome.com. So we're going to have a few real gems in the show notes, links to favorite hockey songs, and the YouTube video of NHL players talking about their favorite hockey sounds. So it's worth looking at our show notes as well. And we're on Twitter at talkdescription too.
Yeah, when you mentioned that, the sounds, all so many things came, that little blade scrape on the ice as you're skating down and you kind of changing your speed, just that there's so many little sounds.
The sound of one of the sound effects I used was the stop, right? The skater.
Yeah.
It's so evocative. It's crazy how evocative
listening to
it
go
is.
like out in the Toronto Islands, there are channels between a bunch of islands just outside of Toronto, and there's when it freezes over, that's where a lot of shinny gets played, and the sound of skates and sticks on open ice, you can hear the crack of the ice underneath you. It's that's fantastic.
That's fun stuff. I'm looking forward to listening to a little audio description of hockey. I can probably learn something from that because all I got is what I perceive, and with audio description, it brings a lot more. I'm glad to have you guys on, and I'm glad what you're doing, bringing news from across the world. You guys don't stop anywhere.
We're always looking for more ideas, so send them our way.
All right, Christine, JJ, thank you very much, and we'll be looking forward to having you on again.
Right on.
you.
Keep your stick on the ice, Jeff.
And for more podcasts with the blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities. A big shout out to Chichow for his beautiful music. You can follow Chichow on Twitter at El Chichow. And if you want to leave some feedback, give us some suggestions, give us a call at 612-367-6093. We'd love to hear from you. And from all of us here at Blind Abilities, through these challenging times, stay well, stay informed, and stay strong. I want to thank you for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.
When we share
what we see
through each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap between
the limited expectations and the reality
of blind abilities.
The realities of blind abilities.